Going to the next slide. Another lady that I've met while I've been writing for the Transportation magazine is Karen Giese. She graduated from Iowa State University with a master's in transportation several years back, and now she works for an international firm called PTV America. And one of their prime products is a software called Visum. Basically, what they're able to do with Visum is, have you guys ever played The Sims? I assume some of you probably have, like SimCity or something like that. You at least know of it. Basically, with their software, they can recreate any city, any street network. They can put in football stadiums, hockey stadiums, you name it. They can recreate it on a computer. But what's kind of neat about that is that she can do traffic modeling with it. So she can put in statistics that they have, like how many people go to a hockey stadium. Say you got like 40,000 people at the hockey stadium, and then you've got, I don't know, maybe like 80,000 people at the football stadium. And if you've got an event like the Olympics, the Winter 2010 Olympics are coming up, you've got to plan for that event. You're going to have a lot of people, 200, 300,000 people in a very small area. How are you going to deal with all those people moving at one time? And so what they're able to do with their software is put that information into the program and run a simulation to see where the crowding is going to be greatest at certain times, when the hockey game lets out, when the football stadium lets out. And so, I mean, she's making money to do this. She was really excited to get into engineering. Her father did it, her grandfather did it, so there was kind of a history there. And one thing that is kind of a concern is, like, engineering is like a man's world. Everyone here almost, is this one lady in here? Yeah, we got one lady in here, and three out of the four people I'm presenting on today, they're ladies, so they're definitely represented. They're coming up. Women are getting good educations, and they're being more and more supported, especially in the field of engineering and transportation. She says that women are treated well, and there's lots of opportunities available to them. So if you like what I'm saying today, you're kind of interested in it, be sure to check out the magazine and see what's out there. There's a lot of other ladies that are doing exciting jobs, And so what kind of classes are you going to need? Pay attention to stat, physics, algebra, and something else that might be unexpected is English and speech. Something that's really important when you're working as a transportation engineer, or a lot of engineers really, you have to communicate your ideas. You're dealing with a lot of technical information, and you've got to convey that to an audience who's got money to pay for the projects. If they don't like what you have to say, then they're not going to give you the money to do the projects. So you got to be able to speak well, you got to be able to articulate your ideas clearly, you got to be able to create good diagrams, good graphics that are convincing and pleasing so that your audience can understand why this is a good project. Why should I give you money to develop traffic software, to propose a new bus system, a new bus route to make it more efficient for people to get places? So, pay attention to your English and speech classes. And a transportation engineer is kind of like, you got transportation planners. There's a lot of different things you can do as a transportation engineer. It's not really fair just to say, like, I'm a transportation engineer. There's a lot of different titles out there, a lot of different positions and opportunities for advancement. Depending on what you want to do, you can work in a lot of different fields. You can work, like I kind of talked about, like pedestrian traffic. Like, we don't really think of people walking as transportation, but someone out there has got to plan sidewalk systems. They got to think about infrastructure for pedestrians. You think of skywalks and stuff like that. But you can also do stuff that's more glamorous, like if you want to get out of the country, travel a little bit. China is booming right now. If you can go over and work on like bullet train systems, like they're traveling 200 miles per hour. Like, someone's got to figure out, like, how do we keep a system like that safe? How do we keep a bullet train from going off the tracks? How do we keep them from running into each other and blowing up? Like, it's pretty serious stuff. So this figure's not quite right. I mean, that's kind of a starting salary if you're working in transportation in the United States. $45,000 to $50,000 maybe, but you're doing something a little more glamorous. you're going to be making a little more money than that. You'll be putting in your hours too. You'll definitely be working more than 40 hours a week, but, you know, it's exciting work. So the next slide. This one you've probably heard of before. I assume that some of you have probably seen CSI, Crime Scene Investigation TV show. Randy Bulver works for the Iowa State Patrol. If you want to go to the next slide. When Randy started working for the Iowa State Patrol as a crash investigator, he was doing it kind of old school, using a tape measure and paper and pencil to figure out everything. So you get a call, go out to a crash scene, and, you know, there'd be cars and like fire and bodies everywhere. It's just chaos. And they get out there with their tape measure and like figure out where, you know, one car is, how far it is from the other, and they have to sit down and use their math to figure out, like, you know, like trigonometry and triangulation to figure out, like, this car was going this fast, it had this momentum, and it hit this car at this angle, and that, you know, they kind of reconstruct what happened that hour before the crash happened, you know, before they got there, try to figure out, like, who was in the wrong, who blew through that stop sign, you know, who was fiddling with their radio and not paying attention and rear-ended the person. You know, because some people, they make mistakes and they don't want to admit it, you know, so the police go out there and people like Randy Bulver try to figure out, well, what really happened, you know. So when they go to court, they got things straight and they can fill out their accident report and everything's good to go. And, you know, it's a lot of it's common sense, but you also have to have a strong background in classes like geometry and physics, algebra, trigonometry. Again, like very textbook-oriented curriculum. But once you got out into the real world, you have to be really creative about how you use this information. You have to be kind of a think outside the box kind of person. As a crash investigator, there's a lot of different options. You can work privately for yourself. You can own your own business. That can be lucrative if you're really good at what you can do. You can get some really high-profile contracts. You can work for the government. You can work, you know, like for the feds or something like that. You can also work as like a subcontractor. You can work for privately, like for law enforcement agencies and work through them. There's a lot of issues with that. You will end up giving like 30% of your income to the government, you know, through taxes and stuff like that. You gotta pay business taxes. There's a lot of administrative work with working privately. But another option, if you're not interested in that, is to go through law enforcement. You don't typically think of like police officers necessarily being in transportation. You know, they're dealing with crime and stuff like that, but a lot of what they do is making sure that the roads are safe, making sure that people are, you know, observing the speed limits, that trucks, for instance, aren't overloaded. If you've got overloaded trucks, they're going to cause damage to the roadways, and they're going to cause cracking and rutting on the highways. It's going to make it unpleasant for you to drive to school. So there's a lot of different things that they do, crash investigation being one of them. And like I said, depending on who you work for, your education and your experience, you can make $40,000 to $80,000 per year. That's kind of like the middle range. So it can be below that or above that, depending on your experience and education. So there's a lot out there. There's a lot of different career opportunities. But these are only some of the things that are out there.